My wife cheated with her boss and drained our joint account of $250, $0 before leaving me for him. Now she's trying to claim half of everything in a bitter legal battle over our estate worth over $500,000, and I just found out she's been lying about where that money even went. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am, sitting in my living room feeling like I've been hit by a truck. The craziest part, I found out my wife, Emily, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark, and she drained our joint account of $250, $0 before she just walked out on us like it was nothing. That's the kind of betrayal that sticks with you, you know. It's not just about the money, it's the whole sense of trust shattering into a million pieces. I want to tell you everything from the beginning because I still can't believe how badly I was played. Emily and I had been married for almost 10 years. We met in college, built a life together, and honestly, I thought we had something solid. She was always a little bitchy, yeah, but I figured that was just her personality. She's the kind of woman who acts like she's above everyone else, always throwing around her status and making sure everyone knew she was the hot wife at the office. She worked at this marketing firm downtown and she loved to brag about her boss, Mark. Said he was so handsome, so successful, and so charming. I never paid much attention to her stories because I trusted her. Or at least I thought I did. Things started feeling off a few months ago. Little things. She'd leave her phone around more often, sometimes late at night, and there were these weird messages she'd delete quickly if I came into the room. I'd catch her in little lies about where she was going or who she was with. Nothing concrete, just enough to make me suspicious but not enough to catch her outright. Still, I brushed it off because I didn't want to believe she'd cheat on me. We had a good life, or so I thought. Then a couple of weeks ago I decided to check our bank account. I had a gut feeling something was wrong. I wanted to see if she'd been spending more than usual, maybe hiding something. When I logged in, my stomach dropped. There were withdrawals I didn't recognize, large sums of money going to some private accounts, transfers to online gambling sites, and a bunch of cash withdrawals at ATMs I'd never even seen her use. The total, over $250, $0 drained from our joint account in just a few weeks. How could she do this? How could she take all that money and just leave? I kept digging and found more. She was funneling money into secret accounts, probably to hide it from me. I found receipts for hotel stays, expensive dinners, and even gifts for some guy I'd never heard of. That's when it hit me, she was having an affair with Mark. It all made sense. The late nights, her disappearing acts, the secretive phone calls, and the worst part, she was lying through her teeth about everything. I confronted her one night. I waited until she got home from work, my heart pounding. I told her I knew about the affair, about the money. Her face went pale for a second, then she snapped at me, calling me paranoid and jealous. She said she was just stressed, that Mark was just a friend and I was overreacting. She dismissed it all like it was nothing, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. She tried to tell me I was imagining things, that I was crazy for accusing her. But I was. I knew what I saw, and I knew she'd been lying to my face. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Anger, betrayal, sadness, it all mixed together. How could she do this to us? To me? I'd given her everything, my time, my love, my trust, and she threw it all away for some guy who probably just wanted her for her looks and her status. I kept replaying the scenes in my head, her lying, her sneaking around, her dismissive attitude when I asked about the money. It was like I was living in a nightmare, and I didn't know how to wake up from it. Part of me wanted to lash out, to yell and scream and make her feel as miserable as I did, but I knew that wouldn't fix anything. I was furious, but I also felt helpless. I'd been played, used, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of what was supposed to be my life. I started thinking about what I should do next. Should I fight for the marriage? Should I take her to court over the money? Or just cut my losses and move on? Honestly, I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. I needed a plan. I needed to find out where all that money went, who knew about it, and how I could fight back. But first, I had to get through the shock and the heartbreak. That's where I am now, stuck in a weird limbo, trying to process everything, wondering how a woman I loved and trusted could do something so ruthless, so calculated. I'll tell you, it's a mess, and I'm not even sure what's worse, the betrayal itself or how I'm supposed to pick myself up after. After I confronted Emily that night, everything felt like it was falling apart. She sat there with that smug look, acting like I was overreacting, like I was some jealous psycho for accusing her of cheating. She kept insisting she was just stressed, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was imagining things. But I saw through her bullshit. Her eyes, her body language, she was lying. She was guilty as hell. I knew she was playing me, and I could feel that cold rage bubbling up inside me. The next day, I started digging deeper. I needed to know exactly what she was hiding, where that money went, and what her game was. I hired a private investigator, something I never thought I'd do because I wanted the truth, no matter how bad it was. While I waited for him to get back to me, I went through our bank statements, emails, and texts. I wanted to connect the dots. It didn't take long. The Pi called me within a few days. He had some shocking news. Emily had been funneling money into a series of offshore accounts, hidden behind shell companies. The transfers were complicated, but he traced them back to a luxury condo downtown, a couple of expensive cars, and a bunch of other assets. She drained our account of over $250, $0 in just a few weeks, and she was planning to leave me with nothing. The worst part, she'd been lying about her whereabouts, claiming she was working late or at some conference, but in reality she'd been with Mark, spending that money like it was free. I felt sick. How could she do this? How could she betray me so completely? I'd been naive, trusting her blindly. I thought we had a good life, a stable marriage. Turns out she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. All that talk about how much she loved me, how we'd be together forever, it was all a lie. She was just using me for the money, for her own selfish needs. I needed to confront her again, but this time with proof. I scheduled a meeting for that evening. I told her I had some questions about her recent trips and expenses. She played it cool, acting like she had no idea what I was talking about, but I wasn't buying it anymore. When she got home, I laid everything out on the table, the bank statements, the Pi's report, the receipts I found. Her face twisted into a mix of shock and anger. She tried to deny everything, saying I was crazy, that I was just jealous, that Mark was just helping her with her career. She said she'd never cheat on me, that I was paranoid. But I had all the evidence. I told her I knew about the offshore accounts, about the money she stole, and that I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. Her reaction was pure bitchy defiance. She snapped at me, calling me insecure, saying I was just jealous of Mark's success, that I didn't understand her ambitions. She tried to turn it around, making it seem like I was the one at fault for not trusting her. But I could see the truth in her eyes. She was caught, and she knew it. That night I felt like I was living someone else's nightmare. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was a liar and a thief. She'd been lying about her whereabouts, her intentions, and even about her feelings for me. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd given her my heart, my trust, and she'd taken everything and walked out with it. The emotional impact hit me harder than I expected. I was furious, heartbroken, and confused all at once. I kept asking myself how I could have been so stupid. How did I miss all the signs? How could she do this to me, to our life? I felt betrayed in every possible way, and at the same time, I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to act. I had to do something about this mess. I started researching legal options, trying to figure out how to get that money back and protect what was left of my estate. I knew she was planning to leave me with nothing, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it that easily. I also realized I had to prepare myself for her next move, whether she'd try to claim half of everything, including the house and other assets, or try to spin the story her way. I couldn't let that happen. I'd fought for my marriage, but now I had to fight for my future. Honestly, I felt exhausted. Betrayal takes a toll on your mind and body, and I was running on fumes. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been played, yes, but I also saw the truth. Emily wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was a manipulative, selfish person who used me and then discarded me like trash. That realization was bitter, but it also gave me the resolve to take control of the situation. I owed myself that much. Now I'm in the process of gathering everything I need: legal advice, financial records, and evidence of her lies. I don't know exactly what's coming next, but I know I won't let her walk away unscathed. She might have drained our account, but I'm not done fighting yet. Not by a long shot. After I collected all the evidence and made my plans, the reality of what Emily had done started sinking in even deeper. I couldn't get over how she had lied to my face for months, how she drained our savings to fund her affair with Mark, and how she was now trying to claim half of everything I'd worked for. The betrayal cut so deep I felt like I was bleeding inside. I knew I had to act fast, not just to protect my assets, but also to understand just how far she was willing to go. That night, I sat there staring at the bank statements, trying to piece together her entire scheme. The offshore accounts she'd set up, the shell companies she'd used to hide her money, and the receipts for luxury hotels and expensive gifts for Mark. I realized she had planned this for a while, maybe even before we got married. All those little signs, her secretive phone calls, her disappearing acts, had been part of her grand plan. I decided I needed legal help fast. I found a lawyer who specialized in divorce and asset protection. We discussed everything: her lies, the stolen money, and her attempt to claim half of our estate. The lawyer told me that I had a solid case, especially since I could prove her deception and financial misconduct. But I also knew that Emily was the type who would fight dirty. She'd use every trick she could to get what she wanted, even if it meant lying under oath or twisting the truth. Meanwhile, Emily kept trying to contact me, claiming she wanted to talk and work things out. Yeah, right, I wasn't falling for that. I knew her game now. She was trying to manipulate me into dropping the case or making some kind of settlement that favored her. But I wasn't stupid. I'd learned my lesson the hard way. One day, I decided to confront her directly. I told her I knew everything about the offshore accounts, the money she stole, the affair with Mark. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be a pushover anymore. I told her she'd ruined us, and if she thought she could just walk away with half my estate, she had another thing coming. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent, but I saw through it. Her mask was slipping. Her reaction. She got defensive, started yelling that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous of her success, and that Mark was just helping her with her career. She even had the nerve to call me insecure and paranoid. But I was buying it anymore. I had proof. I had her lying about her whereabouts, about her finances, about her feelings. I felt a mixture of disgust and anger boiling inside. How dare she try to turn this around on me? After everything she did, I told her I was going to take her to court, that I was going to fight for every dollar she stole, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. That's when she snapped. Her bitchy attitude turned into outright fury. She accused me of trying to ruin her, said I was just a jealous husband who couldn't handle her success. She called me a loser, a nobody, and said she'd make sure I got nothing. That was the moment I realized she was dangerous, not just emotionally, but in how far she was willing to go to protect herself. The next few weeks became a whirlwind of legal battles, financial investigations, and emotional roller coasters. I worked with my lawyer to freeze her assets and track down the offshore accounts. I hired a forensic accountant to dig into her financials and figure out exactly how much she'd hidden. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her bitchy act, trying to spin stories about how I was the bad guy, how I was just jealous of her success, and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. But I saw through her lies. Every time she opened her mouth, I could tell she was trying to manipulate the situation. She even tried to accuse me of abuse, of being controlling, just to distract from her own guilt. I knew her game now. She was trying to paint herself as the victim, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. Emotionally, I was a mess. Part of me wanted to give up, to just let her walk away with everything she wanted. But a bigger part of me knew I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let her get away with draining our life savings, lying to me, and then trying to claim half of our estate. That's not just about money, it's about dignity, respect, and justice. I'm not going to lie, it's been one of the hardest times of my life. The betrayal, the loss, the anger. It all clouds my mind sometimes. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity. I see her for who she really is, a manipulative, selfish woman who used me for her own gain, and I refuse to let her win. I'm fighting to protect what's left of my future, and I've made up my mind that I won't be the one to lose everything she stole. I'm determined to see this through, no matter how ugly it gets. The legal process has been a nightmare, honestly. Every day feels like I'm walking through a minefield. Emily's lawyers are aggressive, trying to spin her version of events, claiming I'm the one who's been controlling and paranoid. She's out there playing victim, saying I'm trying to ruin her career and reputation, but I've got the proof. Every bank statement, every offshore account, every lie she told, it's all on my side. Still, it's exhausting having to defend myself against her manipulative tactics. I've learned that Emily is a master at playing the victim. She's the bitchy wife who acts like she's above everyone, but behind closed doors, she's a liar and a thief. She's been lying about her whereabouts, her finances, and her feelings. She's tried to convince everyone that I'm the crazy one, that her affair with Mark was just some mistake, that she didn't drain our account because she needed a fresh start. But I know better. I've seen the proof, and I've got witnesses who can testify to her lies. One of the most shocking things I uncovered was how she managed to hide so much money. She used fake invoices, shell companies, and even moved funds through cryptocurrency to make it harder to trace. The offshore accounts she set up were massive, hidden behind layers of secrecy. I found emails where she was bragging about how she was outsmarting me, how she was going to walk away with everything. That's when I realized this wasn't just an impulsive affair, it was a carefully planned financial theft. Meanwhile, Emily continued to try and manipulate me. She sent me threatening texts, accusing me of trying to ruin her life, claiming I was jealous of her success. She even hired her own lawyer, trying to intimidate me into dropping the case. But I stayed firm. I knew the truth, and I knew I had to fight. What's right? I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. Every time I thought about how she drained our savings and lied to my face, I wanted to scream. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I loved her, and now I realized she never loved me back. She only loved what I could give her: my money, my stability, my trust, and she used me for her own selfish gain. But I also learned something important. I can't change the past. I can only control what happens next. That's why I doubled down on my legal strategy. I pushed to freeze her assets, to force her to reveal everything she'd hidden. I also started gathering character witnesses, friends and colleagues who knew her real personality, how she's always been manipulative and bitchy. I knew she'd try to spin this as me being the villain, but I was ready for that. There's been a lot of late nights, poring over documents, talking to lawyers, and trying to stay sane. Honestly, I feel exhausted but also determined. I refuse to let her walk away with half of what I worked for. This isn't just about the money anymore, it's about standing up for myself and making sure she doesn't get away with her lies and betrayal. I've also started thinking about what my next move should be. Do I try to salvage the marriage? No, not after everything I've uncovered. Do I want to stay married to someone who'd do this? Absolutely not. I'm leaning toward divorce, and I want to make sure I get everything I'm entitled to. I want her to pay for what she's done, not just financially but emotionally. I want her to feel the weight of her own actions. This whole ordeal has changed me. I used to trust easily, believed in the idea of a faithful marriage. Now I see the truth. Some people are just selfish and manipulative, willing to destroy everything for their own benefit. I've learned that you can't always trust appearances, and sometimes your worst fears are the ones that turn out to be true. In the end, I know I'll come out of this stronger. It hurts like hell now, but I won't let her win. I'll fight to get back what's mine, and I'll rebuild from the ashes. I don't know exactly how long this legal battle will take, but I do know one thing: I'm not giving up. I'll do whatever it takes to set things right, even if it means exposing her for the manipulative liar she really is. Because at the end of the day, I deserve better than being played like a fool. The court dates are coming up, and I've never felt more on edge in my life. Every day feels like I'm walking a tightrope, balancing the anger, the sadness, and the sheer exhaustion of fighting someone I once loved. Emily, of course, is doing her best to paint herself as the victim. She's hired her own lawyers, trying to spin stories that I'm the one who's been controlling and abusive. It's almost laughable, but I know her game now. She's trying to distract from the mountain of evidence I've got against her. I've been poring over every document, every email, every piece of financial evidence I can find. The offshore accounts are the biggest headache. She's used to bunch of fake companies, fake invoices, and even cryptocurrency transfers to hide her money. I've had to hire a forensic accountant to piece it all together. It's like trying to crack a code. Every layer she put between herself, and the truth just makes it harder to find the real story. But I refuse to give up. I want every cent back, and I want her to pay for what she's done. The legal team has advised me to prepare for her to try and claim half of everything, including the house, the savings, and even some of my retirement accounts. She's arguing that since we're married, she's entitled to half of it all. But I've got proof she was secretly draining our accounts and setting up those offshore shells before she even started her affair with Mark. That should give me a leg up in court, but I know she'll fight dirty. She's already started spreading rumors about me, saying I'm unstable, controlling, even abusive, trying to turn the tables. Honestly, I've never felt so betrayed and angry. I trusted her for years. I thought we had a solid life. But all that trust was just a facade. She used me, manipulated me, and then drained our bank accounts like some kind of financial vampire. Every time I think about the money she stole, I get furious. That's not just a number, that's our future, our stability, everything I worked for. And she just took it all for her own selfish pleasure. I've been thinking a lot about what I want from all this. It's not just about the money, though that's a huge part of it. It's about justice. I want her to feel the weight of what she's done. I want her to know she can't get away with lying, cheating, and stealing without consequences. I want her to be accountable for wrecking our marriage and for trying to claim half of everything I've built. At the same time, I've started to realize that some things might never be the same. This whole ordeal changed me. I used to believe in the idea of a faithful marriage, but now I see that some people are just out for themselves. I don't think I can ever trust Emily again, not after the lies, the betrayal, and the theft. But I also know I have. Focus on moving forward. Whether that means divorce or some kind of settlement, I need to rebuild my life piece by piece. The most frustrating part is how she continues to deny everything, even with all the evidence against her. She insists she's innocent, that I'm making it all up, that Mark is just a friend, and that she's the victim here. It's like talking to a wall. She's so good at lying, at twisting things around, that sometimes I wonder if I'm going crazy. But deep down, I know the truth. And I know I'm not going to let her manipulate me anymore. This fight is draining, physically and emotionally. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach, and I go to sleep exhausted from all the stress. But I also feel a strange sense of purpose. I'm doing this not just for myself, but to prove that betrayal and theft have consequences. I refuse to be the guy who gets pushed around and gets nothing in the end. I want justice, and I'm determined to get it. I keep reminding myself that I'm not alone in this. I have friends, a good lawyer, and the evidence. I've learned that sometimes the only way to fight back against someone like Emily is to stay strong, be relentless, and never back down. I won't let her cheap tricks or her bitchy attitude win. I've come too far to give up now. Whatever happens in court, I know I'll come out on the other side stronger. And someday, I hope I can look back at this mess and say I fought for what was right, not just for the money, but for my dignity and my future. The court date finally arrived, and I knew this was the moment everything would come to a head. I sat in that courtroom feeling a mixture of relief and dread. All the evidence I'd gathered, bank statements, offshore account details, emails, and witness testimonies, was laid out before the judge. Emily's team was doing everything they could to discredit me, claiming I was a controlling husband who was just jealous of her success. But I had the truth, and I was determined to see justice done. As the proceedings went on, I watched Emily sit there with her bitchy smirk, trying to act like the innocent victim. But her facade cracked when my lawyer presented the forensic accountant's report. The evidence of her financial deception was irrefutable. I saw her eyes flicker with panic when they revealed how she'd hidden millions through shell companies, cryptocurrency, and offshore accounts. That was the moment I felt a strange sense of closure. It was like all the pieces finally fell into place. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. She ordered Emily to return the stolen money, to pay damages for the financial misconduct, and to relinquish any claim to our estate. The court also awarded me sole custody of our house and assets, effectively ending her ability to manipulate or drain any more from what's left. Watching her reaction, her bitchy, angry glare felt like a small victory. I knew she'd hate losing everything, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. She had made her choices, and now she had to face the consequences. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about reclaiming my life and dignity. I was finally free from her manipulations and lies. I realized that I'd been in a toxic relationship with someone who only cared about herself. The betrayal had been brutal, but it also taught me an important lesson. Never ignore the signs, never trust blindly, and always protect your own interests. Since then, I've been rebuilding. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional scars, and I've been focusing on my career and personal growth. The money she stole was a blow, but I've managed to recover most of it through legal means. More importantly, I've learned to trust myself again, to recognize red flags and to stand my ground. I've also become more cautious about who I let into my life, realizing that some people are just fundamentally selfish. Looking back, I see this as a turning point. Yes, I was betrayed in the worst way, but I also found strength I didn't know I had. I learned that revenge isn't just about getting even, it's about protecting yourself, your future, and your sanity. Emily's actions showed her true colors, and I refused to let her define my story anymore. I've come out the other side more resilient, more aware, and more determined to live a life built on honesty and trust, not betrayal and lies. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: trust is a fragile thing. Be vigilant, protect what's yours, and don't be afraid to fight back when someone tries to take advantage of you. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, but it also opens your eyes. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to stand your ground, fight for what's right, and rebuild from the ashes. That's what I've done, and I know I'll be stronger because of it.